Hi friends, Kristy Glass here with a finished object for you. It is a little different for me. It's not what I'm normally knitting on, but I had a very special new family member arrive, a little baby boy, and he lives in Arizona, so Auntie knits things. So what do you knit the baby in Arizona? You knit him a toy. This is Georgitte, the baby African giraffe. Let's talk about Georgitte, because I actually have a lot of thoughts on this particular finished object. Look how tiny it is, so cute. This is the kit from Blue Sky Alpacas. It's the, you guys know I can't say French words, but it's Georgitte, the baby African giraffe, exquisitely made from Blue Sky Alpacas Royal Petites yarn. I got this kit at the knitting place in Port Washington, Long Island. Dinah actually gifted it to me, and I just love the presentation. It comes in this little box with everything you need. You slide it open, there's patterns beautifully packaged, the yarn, there's instructions for seamed and in the round, and everything you need in one little kit. The only thing that you have to add to it is needles and like a yarn needle and your needles, but everything else is in there. And the front is an illustration of the animal, and on the back there is a photo of the finished object. Now when I look at this Georgitte illustration and it says giraffe, I accept that this is a giraffe. I feel like the neck is there, the ears. This particular watercolor has some spots in it. You can sort of see the giraffe spots. So it's it sells itself, this illustration, for sure. And as I was knitting this, my giraffe looked like a few different animals. It looked kind of like a mouse for a while. Then it sort of looked like a lion. I maintain it still kind of looks like a lion. The mane being on the back, I guess, makes it more of a giraffe, but it's really neither here nor there. It's just a knitted toy for a baby who really doesn't care what it is. But it is a giraffe. Let's talk about the pattern. It says on the pattern that you can choose seamed or in the round. I didn't even read through the seamed. I knew I wanted to do the round. I like knitting in the round. I didn't even really entertain the idea of doing anything else. It says the pattern is for an advanced beginner, and I would say that it's a little bit more intermediate. I think mostly because it's so small. Because knitting in the round can be tricky and a little finicky, and then when you add the fact that it's very small, like knitting with little skewers, I don't know if that's for a beginner, even if it's an advanced beginner. But I've had this argument with people. If you're a very motivated knitter and you really get knitting right away, maybe this project is for you. But for someone like me, it's taken years to go from beginning to more intermediate knitter, I don't know if I think I would have given up on this if this had been one of my first projects. Now in the kit comes safety eyes, as you can see, and also the stuffing for the animal, as well as some pebbles. I guess we'll call them little pebbles. I don't know what they refer to them as in the instructions, but it's a little bag full of these little weighted beans, like, you know, like a bean bag situation. I filled the body with the little pebbles, and I found that they were popping out. So as I stuffed it more, because I do think you sometimes need more stuffing than you think, because otherwise it's gonna look floppy and funny. I like the way this guy looks with his stuffing. I've learned, I guess, the hard way that if you don't stuff enough, you can really sort of regret it. So I wanted him to be nice and chunky, but the little beads kept popping out, and I thought, well, babies should always be supervised with their toys, but I didn't really knit this to sit on the shelf. I knit it for the baby. And so these little tiny pebbles, these choking hazards, can't be popping out of this animal. So I thought about it, and I thought I can do one of two things. I can leave the pebbles out, but then it makes it hard for him to sit without the pebbles because it weights him down. So I can leave them out, which is really not a big deal. or I can think of another solution. So the stuffing came in a little canvas bag, and I thought, you know what, I can use that material, I can upcycle this. So I put the pebbles in the bag and then just hand sewed it shut in like a very janky way. Like it was not a good sewing job, because I was trying to sort of what's the word for baste? I was trying to baste it shut, but then they were still popping out, so I just kind of kept basting it, and then as I was basting it, I realized that I hadn't left enough room, so then I had to baste a little higher. I will show you a picture. It's a terrible job. It doesn't matter. It's going on the inside. So I ended up just sort of fashioning my own little sack for these pebbles, and then stuffing that into the body. I could have left it, I guess, in the plastic bag, but then I thought the plastic bag would maybe make a funny noise. So that's why I decided to use the canvas bag. And I think that worked out fine. His belly's nice and taut, and then he can sit on his own using the weight inside. I did the pattern for the mane as written, and it was double the length it needed to be. It was about this tall. So I just folded it in half, and that's how I put it on the back of the head. I'm not sure if I think if I had read the instructions and seen where it was going and what it needed to fit, I would have figured that out and not knit so much, but it was fine. I just folded it in half, no big deal. The crown I knit just as is. I think it turned out great. One more reason why I feel like this is not an advanced beginner project is because there's nothing in the instructions that explain sort of construction of a toy. The thing about constructing a toy is that you need to be able to know how to handle certain things, certain aspects of the pattern. For example, weaving in the ends is a new skill. It's not just going on the wrong side of your work and going this way and that way. You actually have to know that you can weave in the ends sort of through the body. So you weave it in through the belly, and then you match the stitch and weave it in out the shoulder, and then match that stitch and then weave it out the leg. It's not a hard technique, but there was no mention of it in the pattern at all. Also, this detail on the face with the little mouth and the nose, zero mention of that, zero. So I just used the picture, which is why pictures are helpful. I just used the picture as a reference, and I did the same technique with the weaving in the ends. Same goes for this added tail. You add a little tail and you add these little horns. And so what I did was I took 3 strands of yarn and I thread it through, leaving enough of each strand out so that I could weave them into the body. Then I braided it and knotted it and cut it, and then I wove in those ends. So there was no instructions on that. I just improvised that, and I do think that if the word beginner is in a skill level, that those details need to be included. So I'm letting you know that in case you decide to make this toy, and if you are an advanced beginner, it's something you need to know about. I really enjoy making things for my family members and babies. I know that this baby will probably never even realize that I made this for him. He may lose it, it may get damaged, it may not even be part of his life, but I know that I made it for him, and I spent time thinking about this new family member, and sometimes that's just all that needs to happen. Like, that's the most important thing. And I know that my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, will hopefully appreciate that I spent the time honoring their new baby in this way. I know that Blue Sky Alpaca has other offerings in the toy department, so if it's bothering you that this giraffe does not look like a giraffe, I suggest going and either calling the knitting place or seeing what they have on their website, or you could probably find some at the Blue Sky website, or you could ask your local yarn shop to see if they have other toy offerings. I feel like maybe there was a hippo, I'm not sure. I also feel like this could easily be turned into a lion. So if you buy the giraffe pattern and want to make it into a lion, there's plenty of yarn left over. You could really experiment with that mane and make it fuller and bigger, and I feel like this could really pass as a lion really easily. So if that's your cup of tea, then you can get the giraffe kit and make it whatever animal you want. But this is my finished object for today. It's a really wonderful summer knit because it's small, it's not on your body making you sticky. The yarn is the softest. It's not really very woolly at all. It's just very sweet and very soft, and a really wonderful gift for those you love. And one added bonus is that you have a gift box when you're all done. So my giraffe will pop right into the box. I will close it up, and off he will be sent to my new nephew. Thank you so much for checking into Kristy Glass Knits, and I will see you next time. Bye!